Hey there and welcome to a new video. Today I want to do another hashtag, and this one is called hashtag Tarot Nerd Tarot Geek. And this one was originally started by Max Black. And I will of course put all the information in the description box, the link to her original video as well as the questions. I have a bunch of decks in front of me for some show and tell, so let's get right into it. Question number 1. Which tarot deck for you offers endless interest or study opportunities, and why? I have a few that fit that category. The first one is probably a really easy one. This one is my workhorse, so to speak. This is my Tarot of the Haunted House by Sasha Graham. And this one is like, the art style is totally mine because I love that comic book kind of art style. And I can just really look at these pictures and kind of get lost in them. And why I use this as a study deck, because something that I did, I don't know if it's going to pick up really well, but I do actually write on the cards. Like right here, I have writing up here. It's in the thing, so I do that on all of the cards. So here I have something written in the trees so that it's not always like right in the middle of the card. I try to hide it, like here it's hidden in the bushes a little bit so that it's not so completely up front. Sometimes that doesn't really work. Wait, what's it here? So here I have it all over, like in the clouds and on her dress, everywhere. And the reason why I did this was because I wanted to have a real study deck. I was watching a video from a still active Order of the Golden Dawn that is practicing in America. And they showed one of their decks that they use, one of the Golden Dawn decks. And that one had like writing all over it. And they said that people nowadays, tarot readers, they are so afraid of actually working with their deck and using it as tools that it's more like, it's my precious and I have to take care of it and like barely even shuffle it and whatever. But no, like these are tools. They are meant to be used. And at the end of the day, it's just a piece of paper or cardstock with ink on it. And so that really resonated with me, and I decided, okay, the deck that I'm going to try this with will be my Haunted House tarot. And at first it was a bit scary, but once I got done, I absolutely loved it. And this deck is not done yet. Whenever I watch a reading by someone else, like I do watch pick card readings every once in a while, just to see what other people say about certain cards. And whenever I hear a reader say something interesting about a card that I have not heard before, then I will take a marker and I will put it down on my card. I will make a note. So this is a working deck and tarot journal all in one. And something else that I want to study eventually, I do have a few German decks. One of them is the Ananda Tarot. And this one looks very simplistic, but there is a large guidebook that comes with this. And I have to say, the way that these descriptions of the cards were written, there is so much depth to these very simplistic images. And like, as you can see, the images, they're not really loaded with a bunch of stuff. And I really enjoy the artwork. So they are quite simplistic, but yeah, going through the guidebook, there is so much depth to it that I really want to take my time and go through the entire guidebook and get to know the cards. And the same goes for other German decks that I have. For example, the Cosmic Tarot. I have the guidebook for that one, or even the Arcus Arcanum, which is also a German deck. And I do have the version with a larger guidebook. And yeah, so these cards might look very fun, easy, simplistic, but the descriptions in the guidebooks are so well written that it is really worth taking some time and studying that. Okay, and then something to kind of go like back to the roots that I want to study is the actual like Golden Dawn stuff. So I do want to read these big books about the Order of the Golden Dawn, like from Israel Regardie, for example. And when it comes to studying tarot decks that go with that, I have 4 specific ones that I got. So the first one would be the Hermetic Tarot. And this one is a black and white deck, but it does have some like descriptions, and it does remind me a little bit of Thoth in a way, and I'm holding it upside down. So this deck takes a bit of getting used to. It might not be everyone's art style, but from what I read, this deck and the depictions on it are the closest that you can find today to the original deck of the Order of the Golden Dawn, because in that order at a certain point everyone had to create their own deck. That's how we have the RWS deck and the Thoth deck. And the original deck that they used as inspiration is not known, has never been publicized or anything. So these images are supposed to be the closest depiction to that original one, and that's why I got this, and this will be my starting point for my studies. And next in line will be the Tarot of Golden Dawn, or Golden Dawn Tarot. This is the German edition, and I went for the one with the guidebook so that I have the descriptions, but yeah, like I said, everything is in German. And these cards, this is actually the deck that the Order of the Golden Dawn, they do have a YouTube channel, was using, and they have like writing all over it. And so these look very simplistic, and I would probably not use this deck for readings, but it will make sense in this whole line of the 4 decks that I got here, because what I want to look at is how these images have evolved and changed over time. The one after that is the Golden Dawn Magical Tarot. And I also went for the one with the guidebook so that I would get some additional information. And these kind of remind me a little bit of the Aleister Crowley deck in a way, from some of the depictions or the way that this is done here, the border. And yeah, so along with the books of the Golden Dawn and then studying these decks, that is something that is really going to take some time. And then there is one more deck that kind of completes this whole ensemble, and that is actually the Initiatory Golden Dawn. This is a Lo Scarabeo deck. And this was actually the first one out of all the Golden Dawn decks that I got, because I just love the artwork. The artist who has done this deck is also the same artist who made the images for the Ludi Lescott tarot. So yeah, and I will do a video where I show all 4 decks next to each other, and then you can see what I mean by the evolution of artwork, because they do have like the same things in them, and you can definitely see that they, like, in a way belong together, that they're all Golden Dawn decks. So yeah, that's something that I want to study. And yeah, I mean, I have other decks that will fall into that category, but those are like the biggest ones, the main ones. I can't talk today. Question number 2. Which tarot decks hit or miss your cardstock spot and why? Absolute hit would be Los Scarabeo decks, like the Haunted House. That one, it shuffles like a dream, riffle shuffling, and I am using this deck a lot. Like I've done a lot of live readings with this, and as you can see, the edges are still looking very good. They don't chip, they don't bend. It's really easy to shuffle. It's the perfect size. This is a complete hit, as well as something like, for example, the Golden Art Nouveau. Same thing, used quite a lot. The edges, they don't chip or fringe or anything. This is absolute my favorite quality of cardstock. It's also bendy, not too bendy, not too thin, not too thick. So the nowadays Los Scarabeo cardstock is perfect. A miss would be, for example, the After Tarot and the Before Tarot as well, because these ones are extremely glossy, so they just slide around, and it's sometimes difficult to overhand shuffle them because cards might be flying everywhere, so they are extremely glossy. That is a miss. And they are a bit thicker, which makes riffle shuffling with these a bit difficult. And another miss would be, just because of cardstock, the Tildwick Tarot. That one has quite stiff cardstock, and it is not easy to riffle shuffle. So with this one, I always take my time. I'm very careful because I also don't want to damage the cards, because that one is actually the most expensive deck that I have. And the biggest miss when it comes to cardstock and production value is the Arcania Tarot. I waited a year to get this. This was a Kickstarter, but I got it on the website. But still, with like everything that's going on in the world, of course, there were delays and shortages, and so it took quite a while for this deck to arrive, and I have it now, upside down again. And with this one, it is also very thick cardstock. Riffle shuffling with this one is also not really the nicest thing to do. It's also pretty thick, so I can't really take all of it in my hand. Something will always fall off. I have only used it a couple times, and the colors on the edge is already coming off, and I've shuffled this like, I don't know, 4 or 5 times maybe, and it's already looking like this, whereas like other decks don't have that at all, no matter how many times I use them. And something that's also very upsetting, because this was a very expensive deck. Let's see if I can show you this. The cardstock, let's see if you can see this, is not cut evenly. You can see this looks like a variety of stuff. Not wait, there. Like this is not really cut even, and the reason for that is because with this package, the deck was divided into 2 piles, and one of the piles was cut in a way that it goes into like the top is smaller than the bottom, and that's why it looks this way. So production value wise, also it's extremely dark. Like you can't even really make out the details, and I guess it looks better on camera than it does in real life. I've actually tried that, and I've seen other walkthroughs, and those cards look a lot brighter than mine. But yeah, like the production value of this one, complete miss, absolute miss. I'm really disappointed with that one, and I wanted to love it because the artwork is so gorgeous. I was really looking forward to working with this deck. I had a specific purpose in mind, but now I don't even want to reach for it, and it's such a shame, because I fell in love with these pictures when I saw them on Facebook. But yeah, I just don't reach for it, and it's a shame. So number 3, Does size matter? Favorite shapes and sizes of decks, smallest decks, and largest decks. Well, my preferred size would be the standard RWS size, so to speak, like the low Scarabeo decks. But I do have different size decks. Something that I like to do is modify my decks, and I like to trim them. And in one case, I had to trim off quite a bit. So I actually turned the deck from a normal size deck, which is also a low Scarabeo. It's actually the low Scarabeo deck. And I cut it down this much, like this much here, and on the side, like that is how much is missing. So I basically turned it into a mini deck, and that was because it had a white border with all, no, just the white border. Then it had a designed border, and then there was another border inside with the different languages. And that was just too much for me, and I just really wanted the images. And so I cut it all off and turned this into a mini deck. And I guess it's about the same size as the standard mini decks from Low Scarabeo. And yeah, the only thing now is because of the size with this kind of cardstock, which normally would shuffle really well, now riffle shuffling with this is a bit difficult. Because the size, like if you cut it down, that does actually change. And the largest deck that I have would be my Röhrig Tarot, another German deck that I have. This is also my soul deck, not because it's the absolute best deck that I have, and like ever since I had this, I don't want to work with any other decks. That's not what soul deck means to me. This is my soul deck because this represents, like the images on it, Germany in the 80s and 90s, and so this is part of my culture, and that's what makes it my soul deck. And these cards are really large. For example, so if I hold them next to my head, they're almost as big as my head, or I could put my entire hand on it. In terms of cardstock, it's kind of like paper. Like I can really, I use this as a fan. No. So it's really thin, but I guess that's okay because that makes it a bit easier when it comes to shuffling, because a deck of this size is not easy to shuffle. Like overhand shuffling would only go this way. And I try to not riffle shuffle this as much because there's actually also only a limited number of these, and they do come in different variations from different countries with different languages. This is directly from the artist's website, and this was the 2020 edition, because now he finally got the rights to his images back. And that's why the 3 cards that used to be censored are now uncensored again. And so this is now officially an uncensored deck, officially licensed and everything. And I know there's a lot of other uncensored versions of this out there, but they're all fakes. They're all knockoffs. Anyway, so those are my deck. I also have a round deck, which is the Wild Unknown Archetypes. And that one does kind of riffle shuffle. It's okay. And if I shuffle it slowly, it works. Otherwise, it's a bit big. It could be a little bit smaller. And yeah, I think that's the only round deck that I have. And otherwise, like most of my decks are like standard tarot size. Number 4, is there a favorite tarot artist, author, creator, publisher that you enjoy the most or collect, and why? Well, most of my decks are low Scarabeo decks, the mass market ones, because I like their style. I like the comic book style that they have. Like the Initiatory Golden Dawn deck and the Ludi Lescott, like that art style is right up my alley. Or the Sasha Graham deck, the Haunted House Tarot, is one of my absolute favorites. And also the Lo Scarabeo Tarot, like that art style is totally mine. And that's why I prefer these kind of decks, and that's why the majority of my decks are like that. I do have some collage decks, and yeah, there's a few, but for the most part, yeah, I really enjoy Lo Scarabeo and that specific drawing style. Number 5, any favorite art styles or themes? Well, I kind of just answered that one. And number 6, in what way are you a tarot nerd or geek with tarot cards, such as bumper stickers, branded clothing, jewelry, tattoos, deck collections, artwork, etc.? Well, I guess the one thing that would make me a tarot nerd or geek would be my collection, which at this point is somewhere around 130 decks, but that's tarot and oracle, everything together. And I think it's like half and half for each. And, or maybe a little bit more, slightly more tarot than oracle, maybe at this point. And that is quite a big collection. Like for the longest time before I discovered TarotTube, I had 5 decks and that was it. And then in the summer of 2018, I discovered TarotTube and I fell down the rabbit hole. And of course, I saw all these pretty decks that everyone was reading with and doing flip throughs and everything. And yeah, FOMO set in, and now I have all these decks. But I'm at the point now where I have figured out what my favorite style of deck to work with is. And I have stopped buying decks at this point. And I'm also ready to let go of some of my decks that I absolutely do not reach for, that I thought they were really nice. They looked nice on camera and other people's videos. But once I had them and tried to read with them, I just wasn't feeling it. So a few of these decks will eventually leave my collection, and I will try to narrow it down to the ones that I really work with and that I can get something out of. Like in the beginning, I thought, okay, I'm going to have a collection and there will be decks that I do not read with, and that's okay because I collect them. But I don't even want a big collection anymore. I really want to have decks that will be used. I don't want them collecting dust on a shelf anymore, so there will be a decluttering at some point. I have already started a purgatory box or a purgatory pile, and yeah, eventually they will find new homes, hopefully. So yeah, that's the only nerd thing about my tarot practice. All the decks. I don't have any like t-shirts or anything that say anything about tarot, not yet. I do want to get one eventually, but since I'm also not out of the tarot closet at work, for example, only very few people know about it. So yeah, I'm not wearing that at this point in time. Stickers and stuff like I don't have any tattoos, and I don't have any artwork yet. Though the artist of the Röhrig Tarot offers that if you want one of these prints as a larger version, I think it's 30 by 70 centimeters. So maybe, what would that be? 12 by something, 27 inches or something. You can get a print of the card as like for your wall. And maybe one day I'll do that. I don't know which one would be my favorite card at this point. But yeah, I can see myself hanging up like images of my favorite cards maybe if I have a room that is completely dedicated to my spiritual practice. I would not probably hang it up in the living room. No. Yeah. So these are all the questions. Thank you, Max Black, for doing this hashtag. This was really fun and a nice way to look at my collection. And like I said, the questions are down below. If anyone wants to do this, let me know. I want to watch those videos too. And thank you for spending some time with me, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.